Welcome to the High Rise Podcast, presented by Headset, the leading data and analytics company for the cannabis industry.
Welcome back to the High Rise, a laid-back, data-back conversation where we talk all things cannabis, from U.S. MSOs to Canadian LPs, products and markets through the lens of data. My name is Cy Scott from Headset, and I am joined, as always, by Emily Paxia of Poseidon.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to the High Rise.
Emily, we did it. I know 2 weeks ago when we recorded, we weren't totally sure, but here we go. 2 episodes in 2026 already.
We are committed, baby. Coming back.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. It's good to be back, and thanks for tuning in. Yeah, it's like always so much to talk about, and I know we've got a full plate today.
So much to do, and yet so little time.
Yeah, exactly.
Do you know what that's from?
No, what is that from?
It's from Willy Wonka, the one with Gene Wilder. Yep.
The real
Break
one.
That, reverse it. Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway,
that's great. It's great stuff. So today we're going to talk about a lot of stuff, right? But I think the big one, and maybe I'm a little biased because Headset was referenced pretty predominantly in an article, but it's about California vapor pens and about how it's just a few percentage points now of overtaking flower in the category as like the number one category of cannabis, which is pretty crazy. I think, I don't know, to put it in perspective, when you think about these legal markets, when they started, it was, I don't know, 65%, 70% flower, at least. I mean, in the early days, yes. 100% flower, or maybe split with a little bit with pre-roll and some concentrates, but much smaller percentages of categories outside of flower. And, we always kind of knew that it was going to go this way, or kind of felt this way as like more categories came online and more consumers came online. But, we're right here within a few percentage points in the largest legal adult use market in the country.
Yes. And it's interesting because this is a trend that we were actually watching on the High Rise a couple of years ago as we were watching this category start to explode. Some of the categories that have been the fastest growing categories are the pre-roll category, especially infused pre-rolls in California, but also the vapor pen market. And as we're going to talk about, it was a thrust of a generational push, actually, that was popping this category up. But one of the things we talked about at the time, which I maintain and I think is a really interesting aspect of it, is like, flower is awesome. I love the flower category. I think there will always be a place for it. I almost think about it like with audiophiles who just love vinyl, and you just love the imperfections, the kind of nuances of it. I feel similarly. I still love flower, and I think it is one of the coolest expressions of what we do in cannabis in its rarest, rawest form. But you can't get over the fact that we are a consumer product category. You and I have talked about this for years, and the way that vapor pens exist in this market is more like a consumer product. They have different shapes, they have branding, they have different product qualities depending on the batteries or the components, or even the types of vapor, if it's rosin, resin, distillate, all the factors. And then each state has different regulations around how these things can exist. So I think this is really exciting in a sense, because it is showing a shift to that kind of finished good of a consumer product category. It's a lot harder to hold the line on a flower brand, although we know some brands do it, like Cannabiotics, like that flower product, that product company as a flower company holds the line. And you guys know this better than anyone with the data,
sure.
But that's I think because of they uphold core tenets around quality and strain selection and those different things, and it's craft. So anyway, I was excited by this. I saw this headline, and then I, of course, was excited that I saw it was citing Headset data. As always, I was like, well, then it's right.
Sure hope so.
Yes, good data inputs. So yeah, I don't know. What do you think about this, Cy?
Yeah, no, I think you're right. I like that analogy to vinyl. Kind of reminds me, when I think flower consumer, I think of like Seth Rogen.
Yes.
And I think of like his houseplant brand, and just, I don't know, rolling his own. Very connoisseur, very opinionated, probably on strain and everything that goes with that. Terpenes, potency, you name it, right? All dialed in. And then you think about vape, and I don't know, it's a complex category for sure, but I think the trend that we see with the all-in-ones, higher potency stuff, simplicity, convenience, it's just a very different consumer,
Yes.
I mean, how these things are marketed and spun and stuff. So interesting to see the nuance.
Well, and that's exciting in its own right too. Like this goes back to my old days before cannabis, is like consumer segmentation studies and understanding who your core consumer is for different product categories, different price points. But I mean, even to the point of Seth Rogen, he had vinyl that he was selling
That's
through
true.
Houseplant.
Houseplant,
So
yeah.
it is like that
So,
intersection of that same kind of like, if I was in my old career working with these like massive CPG and like entertainment companies and media platforms, I would be doing all of that intersection of tastes and preferences that overlap to help you to understand your core consumer. So anyway, that was a good intersection there.
yeah, and when you look at the growth of vape from a demographic profile and the
Mhm.
headset data, it is really very much driven by Gen Z, and we've got some interesting numbers that we'll dig into when we go a little deeper on the topic, because we do have a few other topics I want to talk about, including what's going on in Texas with hemp, um, some stuff in Florida, some stuff in New York. So we'll cover some of that. Uh, the Gen Z stuff related to the vape. But it's surprising to see the nuance, and I
Mhm.
don't know. It's so true. I feel like in my head, cannabis consumers are all very similar, but the data obviously shows completely different metrics there, right? So,
Absolutely.
yeah, and you see it, I'm sure, all the time in your work in Florida lately, probably seeing the customers come through, or the consumers. Um, so yeah, the last bit on this before we'll come back to vape and the whole story, but just to kind of like ground it in some numbers. California, February 2026, and we're talking a lot about California because this is what was referenced in the SF Gate article that we'll link in the show notes here. Flower generated February alone. Flower generated $86.5 million worth of sales. This is pre-tax, post-discount, so it doesn't include any tax dollars in there. And this is after discount. While Vapor Pen hit 81 million. So 86.5 in flower versus 81, so a gap of only $5 million, which is where, it's about roughly 94% of flower sales went to vape. In December, the gap was only 3 million. So, holding tight there. But, hasn't closed the gap yet. But I don't know if we'll do this again in a year, we'll probably see it might be a very different story, because these Gen Z consumers, as we say, are turning 21 today and going in for the first time, and their preference maybe is more towards vape, which is just going to continue to push that category forward. So we'll come back to this, but I want to talk quickly about what's going on in Texas. Texas, a large, well-populated state, as we all know, is in the headlines in a big way. If you recall, I think Governor Abbott out there, who did he just get reelected, or he's like getting I know they just went through that election down there, but he put together an executive order with hemp regulations changing. And in this order, the big headline that's coming out is that Texas is now banning smokable cannabis starting the end of this month. So March 31st is the deadline. And that's being driven not directly by him, but in his, in his original order, I think he outlined enforcement and multi-agency oversight. So it went to groups like the Texas Alcoholic Beverage Commission, or the Texas Department of State Health Services, and the Texas Department of Public Safety. And so now they've come back, and the DSHS, so the Texas Department of State Health Services has come back with the rules, and there's a lot of stuff in here. Covering things that were already kind of outlined, like can't sell it to anybody less than 21, expanded testing and labeling, record keeping, expanded license fees for these stores, of which there are apparently like 9,000 in licensed in Texas, which is an insane number. When I think about the legal cannabis like dispensary licenses, and 10 to 12, I mean, then nationwide, and then you look at in Texas alone, it's 9,000. Again, it's a well-populated state. There's a lot of people, but that's a lot of stores.
Think about it this way. In the state of California, there are about 1,000 dispensaries, give or take.
1,000 in California. Yes. And then you have 9,000 in Texas.
Yeah, you have about 700 dispensaries in Florida. Okay. Like legal regulated markets. I mean, it's crazy.
Legal regulated markets. And you have Texas, which is an illegal market for adult use, has a medical market, of which is, a very unique medical market with 3 license holders in the entirety of the state, some weird regulations, and then you have hemp. And so I if I lived in Texas and I didn't know better, I would think that cannabis is legal in Texas, with 9,000 stores selling hemp in the format that they do. So these changes came through. And the big one has to do with, like I said, the smokeable hemp. And really that comes down to, there's not like an explicit ban on smokeable, but there's a new requirement where THCA must now be included in total THC in the calculations, which is, I know, like a nuanced thing, and took me a minute to like kind of unpuzzle the way it is, or the way it's structured, because in regulated markets, you buy flower, and it'll give you generally THC percentages, right? Which I believe incorporates like THCA, because THCA becomes decarboxylated when you heat it or whatever, and turns into THC. So now with these regulations, apparently with the hemp situation in Texas, they weren't counting THCA as THC, and so that was maybe a way to get around this stuff. And now they're saying no, it all has to be bundled, which ultimately will affect smokable hemp in Texas. Which, it's smokable. I don't know. It's been a long time not in Texas, and I've been close to that market. But I remember hemp. Hemp is pretty low percentage THC, period. THCA or THC, period. And it was like, I remember they like spray it, kind of like old gummies, how they used to just like spray. Yeah, exactly. Spray like gummy worms and stuff. And that was like how they made it edible. And then you'd smoke it. And I don't think it was particularly a good experience. I'm sure it's come a long way, or I don't know what, really, frankly, it could be anything down there. But short of this whole message here is that it's going to be gone, and that's got to impact these 9,000 stores.
Yeah. So I think there are some stores that were really trying to create a professional outlook on it. And I think they were posting COAs of the test results for the product that they were selling in the stores, but God knows what those labs were that were testing them. I mean, one of the overwhelming facts that I've uncovered spending so much time in Florida is that the state had some testing labs go and get product and test it in a lot of these hemp shops. And the THC content in it was certainly what you would expect from actual just cannabis. It was not the low content. And this is where you get into the phrase hot hemp, which is just cannabis. I mean, so hot hemp is always considered when they were growing hemp under the original intention of the Farm Bill for like agriculture, CBD, or agriculture for like textiles, fibers, those kinds of things, or for CBD. There was supposed to be under 0.3% THC. And otherwise, if it tipped over, it was considered hot hemp, which I still want to launch a brand called Hot Hemp.
That's a pretty cool name.
It's a good name. Yeah. Like Hot Hemp. Okay. But I think that, this is, I'm not familiar with what they were finding in these stores, but when they say they ban smokable hemp, an analog occurred to me. A lot of people don't appreciate the smell of cannabis out and about on the streets. And we know this happened heavily in New York, and it caused quite a blowback. In fact, it was cited a lot during the election in Florida for when they did not pass adult use, was like, do you want us to become like New York? Do you want to smell cannabis smoke everywhere and on your beaches and all this stuff? I think people, have a right to not want to smell things. Like, I don't love smelling cigarettes. So the idea that they're banning smokeable hemp, I wonder if it's not just about the health of the person consuming it, but also just the awareness of the people around them. And actually, for the industry, I'm not terribly mad about this, because I do think we have to be cognizant of the fact that not everybody wants to smell things burning out on the street, whether it's a cigarette or it's cannabis. So that's just what it is. I don't know. Everybody, I also am pretty, I like people to have liberties, but the other thing is, if it's not so regulated, you don't know what you're lighting up and smoking, then there's a lot of potential downside to it. And some of those labs that were testing the products in Florida, they were finding a lot of heavy metals or mold or toxins in it, because it wasn't exactly created with care, because it was meant to kind of go through these side channels. But all of this said, I think, it's happened, and so it's being implemented at the end of this month. So it's going to be interesting to see how they enforce that. Do you know it? Have you seen how they're planning to? Or
I'm not sure. I mean, they have a whole bunch of different agencies now that are looking at enforcing. I mean, with the new license fee structure and stuff, I'm sure they're going to be wanting to collect money and probably more rigorous around this stuff. The sprayable stuff, maybe that was like Delta 8 flower, if you remember that. Yeah, I think that's kind of what it maybe was more of. And I think when you bring up the hot hemp, I think what was happening is there's like hemp that can be produced with just like low THC. Yep. And then the newer hemp cultivation model is produce it with high THCA, low Delta 9 THC that passes that bar, right? But it's like, we know, like, it's just high THC all in. And so by changing I think another kind of loophole, right? It's just like, oh, this is hemp, but when you test it against Delta 9, it's fine. When you test it against THCA, it's actually really high potency. So it's probably very similar to what you get in a regulated market that is now going to be banned. So, yeah.
It's like Shakespeare. He said it. Weed by any other name will still get you high.
Yeah, I know. And they'll find a way. It's amazing, the innovation, like, I don't know. We'd all be living on Mars if everyone applied this much energy to things like that, versus these loopholes.
Yeah.
Or the really,
tax system would function, or
I don't know what it means. Hopefully, people in Texas have gotten a taste for it, and have had access, and maybe this will, force the adult use question. It's a pretty purple state, pretty at times, can be progressive in ways. I don't know, civil liberties, seem to be popular in Texas, let me do my own thing in Texas.
Yeah.
So it seems like it would do well. I was looking, and I wish I had the numbers in front of me, and I don't want to pull them up, but I was looking because there was that in this election where they were determining the Democratic senator candidate that was going to come out of Texas, and what's his name? The guy that got all the press. He was on the Colbert, and it like made a huge, and he won. But on that same ballot, they had like a non-binding, like, would you vote for legalization? And I think it was like 80% were for it and 20% against it. Yeah. But this was the Texas Democrats, which I think is a smaller a number of Texans, just in general, but that's a pretty big swing, 80-20. So I think I would guess that you take that number, and then you take the other side, Republicans, and you take like maybe the youth vote on Republicans. That would probably be more progressive towards it. And you probably would get, 60+% for legalization in Texas if they were to have it
Yeah.
on the ballot. So it could be driven in that manner. And maybe this change is going to force it, right? Where, why bother, right? We have this whole framework. It's fine. I can go to one of 9,000 stores and get, essentially good quality flower.
Yep.
But now that I can't, maybe that will create some sort of mechanism to push the issue a little bit more.
Yep. It's very interesting. Yeah, it is true. I mean, there was no reason to fight for legalization if you thought it was already essentially legal. So why would you do that? So now it'll be interesting to see what happens when it comes up. The other thing,
it's like New Yorkers when
yeah,
New York was blowing up, when they didn't have licensing structure and everyone opened stores, and I would talk to New Yorkers and everyone was like, oh yeah, it's legal here and I can buy it and the stores are open already. And I'm like, no, those aren't actual stores. But how, they don't know. They're not asking to check a license. Or how would you know? If it was like a restaurant, you don't go into a restaurant and you're like, where's your license? Let me see. You just assume someone's checking and making sure that you don't have just like a rogue restaurant opening up,
Yeah.
But that's what that was. So I think it's similar in Texas. Probably people are like, yeah, it's legal here. Sorry,
Yeah.
but you were saying.
No. I mean, that's a very good point. Like, I would never walk into a bar and be like, let me see your liquor license.
That's right.
I'm just like, pour me a drink. Anyway. But one thing I didn't get to look at, it says smokeable, right? So I'm a pretty literal person sometimes. Like, does that include vape? Actually tying back to our other category. Do they really mean inhalable? And I don't know the answer to that. I meant to think about that when I saw it and look it up, like think about it enough to look it up, but then I just kept rocking and rolling. And then I thought, well, the other categories, because the other categories that are so strong, I mean, the gummy category is so strong in the hemp market, and so is beverage. So yeah, so I don't know. That's interesting.
Yeah, I think like extracted vape might be a little different, but if like the flower vape, like the old packs, grind it up and because I guess that's just flour at that point, right?
Yeah, that's just flour. I don't think that's but I was thinking about like, pre-pack, like, oil. I don't know. Anyway, we'll find out.
Yeah. Well, moving on from Texas, moseying on to Florida. So you spend a lot of time in Florida. Thanks. Florida Supreme Court rejected an appeal to restore invalidated ballot signatures, killing the 2026 legalization push. Have you guys, you were just down there last week. Anybody talking about this?
No, because nobody would talk to me about it because they know that I would be like, it's not happening. Look, hardened gal over here, but I just think that this governor is not down to party with the cannabis industry, and it's his last his soiree. Like, he's on the way out. And his AG is not down, and I don't think anybody who hangs out with him is down because they're on his team. So I just think it's like one of those things where you kind of have to know what your environment is and just keep, like, this is the devil we know. He is not pro cannabis, and in fact has made it even harder for the regulated market because they're trying to push through these emergency regulations around a number of areas, but they're trying to make it really hard in Florida. So I was not surprised that this did not get approved by the courts. And, it's okay. It's a robust medical market. I do like, one fact about the medical market there is that we've been hovering around 900,000 patients in Florida for the last few years. The original estimates would be that, like, if adult use didn't happen, and it didn't, we would be at around 2 million patients by now. I mean, you would think we would have some growth, but it's been just kind of churning around the 900. And one of my hypotheses is about the hemp stores.
Sure.
Which create, so you don't have to get a medical card. You don't have to deal with the hassle and the renewal. And then there's a lot of myths around what it means to have a medical card. So I do think what I'm hearing, though, from a lot of people, and I'm seeing it too, in fact, is like Curaleaf, they had the hemp company near one of our stores in West Palm Beach that sold hemp, smokable hemp, drinkable hemp, eatable hemp, and but it was intoxicating hemp. But
Sure.
they have closed it because it's clear that Florida is not going to be allowing this any further. And so apparently, according to several of the stores that we work with at Sunburn, they've been telling us that they're seeing these stores now getting raided, the hemp stores. So
No kidding.
yeah. Now, I do think like the Total Wine and all of those groups that are still selling the beverage, I don't think that's as much of a concern for the regulators. I think it's more these other ones, and I think it does have to do with um I know there are certain operators who are trying to do this right, but then there's a whole lot of them that you just see like kids coming in and out and all the challenges of that. So and the untested things, and anyway, it just leaves space for that. So so we'll see what happens next. I am curious if it will encourage more medical card ownership, as maybe there's less access to these products in an easy place. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting. But I wasn't surprised that the Supreme Court didn't didn't approve that those signatures were valid. So
Yeah. So on the hemp side, in Florida, it's a bit stricter. Like, is it stricter? Are the rules stricter, and somewhat enforced? And when you're saying like people are getting raided and stuff because maybe they're going outside of the restrictions, is that what it is, or has there been a change in like policy recently related to the hemp category in Florida?
Yeah, there was apparently a change in the policy, and I think it came right on the heels of the federal government's step to close the loophole in the Farm Bill. It came right in tandem to that. So, but the question is always whether or not it's like, are they just saying that, or are they going to enforce it? And so, and it's interesting because it's not regulated through the Department of Health like the regulated cannabis market is. It's regulated through the Department of Ag in Florida, which is interesting because it's still about consumption. I understand like hemp is an agricultural product, but so is cannabis, but you consume it. Anyway, it's a very interesting kind of nuance to the market. So so I guess this is just so when I was talking to some of the hemp shop owners when I was down there last week, I was like, what's your plan? Are you guys going to stay open? And they said they're just planning to sell through the product that they have while they wait to see what happens at the federal level. They were not concerned about Florida, but then I keep hearing more and more that these stores are being shut. And it's because they're saying it's for the active THC content. So I don't know if those stores in particular they were more Delta 9 products in those stores and just kind of skirting by under the THCA setup, or what was happening in particular there.
Crazy, just crazy. And all this stuff is changing so quickly with the federal regulations coming. And it looks like, no changes there since the last 2 weeks that we've been, since we recorded last. So yeah, it'll be a story to watch what happens to these hemp markets. How do the states deal with them? If they even exist anymore at all once the federal side changes, or if states carve it out like they do for adult use and medical. Okay. Now let's head north, get in our car and drive up to New York. I know we talked about New York quite a bit last time, but it's still in the headlines. So New York cannabis sales on pace to beat 2025 by almost 50%. So 50% growth rate year over year. And we're in March. I think we could beat that. I think 50% might be conservative. Just looking at headset data, March to December of last year. So this time last year to December of last year, it grew almost 40% year over year. And where New York is now, it's number 3 nationally behind California and Michigan.
Yeah. And Illinois is
so yeah,
behind, right?
Yeah,
Or
that's right. So yeah, this just, I don't know. It's a nice bright spot in the market, I think, and I'm not sure like where it sits with licenses and store openings, and I think that's obviously a big driver of this. I know more recently they've started to finally allow promotions, but there are some rules and regulations related to promotions where I don't think you're going to have a Florida situation. As like Florida can be close to like 50% discounted. I don't think that's possible in New York yet, and that's a good thing because it will help hold pricing. And if they can continue to open stores and increase access, meanwhile holding pricing, I think we'll continue to see this grow, this
okay.
market grow.
This isn't crazy. Okay, first of all, I stand corrected. We are now at over 3,000 dispensaries in California, finally. So we were, yes. So I stand corrected. That was old data in my brain.
But still, that's like a third of Texas hemp.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so let's do this. First of all, California should be very disappointed in itself that New York beat them. New York has.
It's like, California, look at yourself.
I'm actually, yes, hands on.
I don't
hips,
even need to tell you. They already know, right?
Well, hands on hips, I'm pissed about this fact. I live in California. I live in San Francisco. I think we have some of the best cannabis in the country. And this is an accessibility situation. And also just the state not support. I'm sorry. I'm furious about this fact. The state of New York has half the population size of California. Okay. And right now I'm just looking at their dispensary count. It's looking at around 600 legal retail stores in New York. This is like as of, wait, is this correct? Yeah, as of end of 2025 for both of these states. Okay, so what the frick is going on here? I mean, this is just, what a missed opportunity for the state of California. Someday, I hope the state gets itself together and understands how to support business better. But this is devastating to me. And I've just watched so many businesses fail in the state of California for this. And I think I'm just going to say that. I'm going to stop now. That's it.
I know California, we're not mad. We're just disappointed.
True dad comment. Hands on. Yes.
That's
okay,
right.
Go to your room and think about what you did. Okay. Okay. Whew.
Well, let me go over to Headset here and find out what is the average item price in California versus New York.
Let's do it. I have a feeling you're right about that.
March 2026. Yeah, I think that'll be a big part of it.
Are you asking Headset, Si?
That's right. I'm asking Headset in our insights. So it's our chat interface, and so it's working through it right now, which is awesome, and it will deliver an answer shortly. But yeah, I suspect it's a pricing thing. 600 versus 3,000. So half the population in New York to California. So even if it's 600, if you double the licenses, you'd still be under half of the California licenses if it doubled from where it's at right now. So as soon as I get this pricing info back, which I just got, so average item price across all categories and all products, not the best metric, right? Because it can be so many different things. But assuming all things are equal, California is $18.41 per item. That is the average item price. New York, $31.22 per item. So New York is 70% higher on average item price. And again, I think pricing is holding because it's an emerging category, and again because of the discounting hasn't gotten to the level like we see in other markets, California included.
Well, the other thing is, let's look at the taxes. Let's see, tax rate in New York State, because that's another thing. I mean, when you think about the tax rate here, 15%, we jumped up to 19%. The sticker shock on that is staggering. Okay. New York is a 13% retail excise tax. Okay. So it's not much better. Wholesale's 9%. Huh. Okay. Well, it's not much
I
better,
know.
but it's a heck of a lot. Well, that is a problem. If the local jurisdictions here will add on. Well, anyway, long story short, bummer.
Yeah, bummer.
Well, good for New York. I just, I'm a taxpayer in this state, so I would love to see some more support behind the industry. So that's it.
So California in February of 2026 did 277 million, and New York did 163 million. And so California is 70% higher on the total sales, but the dispensary count is, what'd you say, 3,000 versus 600? Yeah. So that's 5 times higher.
Yeah, it's actually over 3,000. So yeah, it might even be closer to 6 times higher.
So anyway, California, all things equal, should be 5 times larger than New York.
Yes.
Not 70% higher.
Right.
Which isn't even, 2x. And we're talking like 5x the dispensaries, and it's less than 2x the total sales. So something is weird. But yeah, I think it's pricing. I think it's promotion. I think it's access. And not that I think New York is going to be like this forever. Like it all kind of, the curve will bend over time.
Yeah, it is in the growth phase. We do know pricing holds in the earlier days. New York is next to Ohio. I'm just thinking of who it's next to on the medical market side. Well, at any rate, and they get a lot of tourists. Not that California doesn't, but things to think about.
Yeah, I think you're just going to need to buy more to offset the state. Just do your part and just get
waiting for Superman. Like the song. Okay, I'm done being fussy. We can.
Okay. Last story here, and then we'll get back to the vape deep dive. Well, we actually have some little quick hits on the news, but the last big story: Massachusetts pricing crisis. We need to hit the brakes, is a quote. Plummeting prices tanking the Massachusetts industry. Per the Boston Globe just 2 days ago, and we'll link this article. That's it's exactly what we're talking about here. When it comes to California, right? It's a pricing problem. Massachusetts flower sales are down year over year, about 5%. Edibles down 4%. So it's we see this. It's not like a new story, but it's you're not getting enough people in the category that are coming in. You're not. Prices are going down. People are not maybe buying more. They're just spending less. They're not spending more. They're buying the equal amounts that they would be buying already, and they're just spending less because of pricing. So, interesting to see. I don't know, this happening to Massachusetts now. I'm not sure if where they're at with the store opening and licensing, and I don't know. It's kind of stagnant, right? It's kind of in its state. Yeah. So I don't see this turning around necessarily.
I think that I think they've run into some challenges. There was a massive amount of cultivation and processing built in the state. There's the 3-store cap, and so that it creates challenges in terms of integration.
Right, 3-store cap.
Yeah, and then a lot of people who thought they were going to build, like, this creates tensions in a market where if sole proprietors were like, oh, we're going to build this store and then sell it to a bigger operator, well, that doesn't exist because they can't buy your store because they already have 3. So you haven't even given the individual kind of like entrepreneurs who thought this was maybe a cool once in a lifetime opportunity and then realize an exit. That's not a reality that exists. And so I think you're kind of seeing surplus on it's a tale as old as time, supply and demand but in our industry, demand gets distorted by access points, and so if you don't have a lot of access points, then you don't get to have the cannabis. So the cannabis. But I think This is it's yeah, and we've seen this in other markets where it goes through these sharp down trajectories and then it kind of normalizes and people find a place. But I am starting to think about this more, even just the opening conversation we had about flower being the biggest category and how that started to shift. And the categories that I keep seeing as the growing categories, pre-rolls and vape. And what is that
Mm-hmm.
about? It's about convenience. It's also potentially about a style and a reflection. Like those things, you can buy things that reflect your aesthetic or your interests, you know. Flower is more of like a connoisseur product because you have to put effort into consuming it. I mean, effort, like let's get serious, but it is just not, you don't just like light up you know, a pre-roll or literally pull on a vape pen. And so it's just one of those things. So I do think we are seeing the shift from what used to drive the market, which was more of the cannabis connoisseur, to maybe a broader base, but that are less committed to the pursuit of having to interact with the product to make it work.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I guess in addition to that, apparently in Massachusetts, they continued to issue cultivation licenses. And when you say like the 3 retail um, limit, right? But they continued to approve growers, so production continued to ramp. And then we have all the nearby states like New York, which borders, Connecticut, right? Which are both, I think, getting growing markets. I think Connecticut is as well. And so that's going to impact people that are, within driving range to those states. And then obviously the mature market dynamics that we're talking about, competitive, that curve bending, right? Prices are going down, promotions go up, demand limits, customers can only buy up to 1 ounce a day, which caps demand. I mean, that's a lot yet. maybe not for some, but for me, that's a lot. Plenty. But I think even just demand limits in general, like if you're used to consuming whatever, your behavior maybe doesn't change, but now just things are cheaper. So it's just like a benefit to you as a consumer. You're paying 5 to 10% less as the prices drop. You're not saying I save 10%, I'm going to buy 10% more products, right? So those are the driving forces. What regulators might do, like freeze cultivation licenses, try to let supply catch up with demand. But it's tricky. It's tricky when the market's a bit flooded there.
Yes.
So kind of let's circle back to kind of the deeper dive on the vape pen here. And I've got some more data to share on this stuff to kind of help tell a bit more of the story. Again, vape everywhere, but because we're anchoring this in the article and the SF Gate, just kind of calling out California, and California is still the biggest. When we look at California, like I mentioned, 86.5 million. This is in February. Went to flower, 81 went to vape. So vape is about 94%. And where is that coming from? Well, it's coming primarily from Gen Z, which is buying vape products. It's about 34% of sales, almost 1% increase year over year, where other generations are actually like declining on vape, like millennials, Gen X, baby boomers are going down on vape consumptions. Maybe they're going back to vinyl right now, like you were saying, like, so that's what's kind of going on generationally. It is being held up by Gen Z, who are just more have more affinity for vape. And then the all-in-one, or the disposable all-in-one revolution is pretty big. It's almost 50%. It used to just be solely cartridges, 510 threaded carts that would break all the time and what have you. And then there are all different types of cartridges, like brands like Steezy, which are like the largest in vape in California, have their own carts. But now all-in-one disposables are really gaining favor. I mean, that's been a significant change, where roughly half the sales now are just those all-in-ones.
Okay, so all-in-ones are crazy because, well, they're cool, right? Because you can have them have a design that reflects the aesthetic of your brand, and that is cool
Mhm.
because you're putting a point of view out there, and it's a visual marker. Like I've been re-listening to the podcast about Coca-Cola, which is such a good story. It's very interesting, but the making of the Mae West shape of the Coca-Cola bottle, like
Oh
the
yeah,
physical
sure.
representation of a brand, right? And so for our category, our industry, the all-in-one is an example of a way you can have a physical representation of your brand. And I think that's really cool. As an
Mm.
investor who works with a lot of operating businesses, I can tell you a lot of these all-in-ones are a pain in the butt. They have a lot of
Pain in the
issues.
butt to like manufacture or to
Both,
sell?
all. Just
Both, all
well,
of it.
to sell, the consumers do really like them.
Mhm.
And that, and because of all the things you said, like it's easy. Maybe it does have a design aesthetic that reflects on them because everybody likes things that look like something they'd want to hold or share. And then it's, yeah, the easiness of it. You don't have to deal with a battery or any of that. But the other side of it is that there are, I mean, a lot of these are manufactured in the same facilities in China. I don't like, and there are often not the highest QC
Mhm.
standards, it coming out of those facilities. So you can often get a like box of a bum set of these things, and you just have to kind
Mm.
of deal with the challenges around that. And it can be a little bit of a risk if you put your product in it and then it has problems. So you do have to do quite a bit of testing and QCing around the design and the manufacturer, so you're getting it right. But I have seen several operators face a lot of challenges with these things. So it's just one of those things when you're an operator, you're like, it cuts both ways because it is a fan favorite and there are definite benefits to it in terms of representing your brand, but then you also have to contemplate some of those logistical issues around it. So, but it is interesting to see this category moving the way it is.
Yeah, no, definitely, definitely. I'm pulling some numbers while you're talking here. For Steezy and Steezy in California last 12 months, all-in-one vapor pen was 15.5% of total brand sales. Yeah, of their total brand.
Yeah.
Total brand
Huh.
sales were 340 million, and all-in-one is about 53 million.
That's bananas.
Yeah.
And by the way, congrats on us saying Steezy right. For those listening at home, it's Steezy, not Stizzy.
the more you know.
The more you know.
Speaking of brands, I thought this might be fun. We can maybe try this out. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. It might get
What are we gonna do?
old, but this top three. So top three in the top three. So top three brands in the top three markets.
Okay.
Like who are capturing most of vape in the top three markets in the US. So the top three would be, as we said, California, New York, and Michigan.
Mm-hmm.
And it's funny because when I was talking about total sales, it's like California, Michigan, New York, I think. But when you talk about vape, it's California, New York, Michigan, because Michigan is not selling as much vape as New York. So California did. This is February 2026. California did 81 million, as we continue, I guess, to say. New York did 41 million, and Michigan did 37.5 million in vape. The top three brands in California for vape. Number one is, can you guess it?
Steezy.
Yeah, easy.
Steezy's
Steezy.
easy.
Can you guess number two? I don't think I could have guessed it.
No.
Raw Garden.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
OG. I was actually going to throw a Jeter out there, but
I think Jeter pre-rolls for sure, right? Crushing it.
I
And
always
top
liked
line.
the Jeter
But just
Rosins, but yeah. Okay.
Number three, well known, we know this brand well, Jetty extracts.
Oh, that's what I meant. Okay, brain foul. It's Friday afternoon. I meant Jetty.
I meant Jetty, yeah.
Jetty. Yeah.
Well, there you go. You got your Jetty. Jetty's on the top three and the top
Oh my God,
three.
I was right. Yay.
You were right.
Well, I was right, but then my brain said a different word. So
Yeah, no, fair. Jetty Jeter. Yeah.
Jetty, man, I remember meeting those guys back in 2014. They were using an
Mm-hmm.
Apex Supercritical at the time, and there was like a
Vape. I
junkyard
remember
dog
Apex
tied up
Super.
out front. and there was, and the Apex Supercritical, if you didn't get it tightened up, it would like fire weed shrapnel
Explode.
out. Okay, yeah, these are olden days. Kids, you probably don't even know what a supercritical machine is.
No way.
Okay.
Moving on to New York. So the top 3 in New York. Number 1, Jaunty. Number
I
2.
love the name. Jaunty
Yeah,
is
great
an
brand.
amazing and underutilized word in the English language.
Well, they're making it stick in New York. So Jaunty, 4 million in sale, 4.5 million in sales in February for vape. New York was 41 million total for vape. So 10% of the vape going to Jaunty there. Steezy's like 19% of California vape. 1 out of 5 is pretty good. Back to New York, Heirloom, number 2. Heirloom has got some great branding and packaging, and they do a lot too. They do a lot. I think they do everything. Certainly not just vapes.
So cool, that company. It's out of Syracuse. It's an old orchard family, apple orchard family, hence the name Heirloom. Like, anyway,
I visited once and I thought I was in the wrong place. And I'm like, this can't be right. This is an apple cidery orchard, like I must have gotten the address wrong because it's kind of rural, you're out there.
Yeah.
I'm not familiar with the area, but it was literally, it's all part of the same group. Very cool. Different name, I think. I think Heirloom is their cannabis brand, but yeah, really big production when it comes to apples. Like you can go and pick apples. You can go to their cidery, all that stuff. So very cool.
And did you have apple cider donuts?
I did not.
Okay.
I guess I just have to go back. So works out.
Pairs well with weed.
There you go. Next is Fernway. So Fernway is number 3. They did 3 million in New York, which is great. I know Fernway, I think, was Massachusetts maybe originally.
Connecticut too, I think.
Connecticut. They're in a lot of places now, but they're making the top 3 in the top 3, and
F&A, man,
pretty good. Yeah. Moving on to Michigan.
Just to say, I love to see like those are indigenous kind of local brands to New York, so that's cool. That are holding. I like this Jaunty. I gotta look that up. I gotta look that one up. I know the other 2, but anyway,
yeah. So moving on, Michigan, number 3 in the vape pens, 37 million total, 37.5. And the top 3 brands are MKX Oil Company at 4.2 million, so a little over 10% of the market. Mitten Extracts at 4 million, and then Muha Meds at 3 million. So yeah, I feel like very Michigan brands out there that are in the top 10. I don't know if I see them in other markets.
And they all start with M.
That is interesting. Michigan.
That is interesting. The first one, my brain keeps just saying MK Ultra. Thinking of that great government experiment.
Was that in San Francisco? MK Ultra?
Yeah, Jolly West, and they were like dosing the kids with acid to see if they'd become compliant. The subversives. Yeah.
And there's a strain, MK Ultra.
That's true.
Yeah. Named after the famous CIA.
It's
infamous.
Crazy. There's a book called Chaos that goes into this whole thing and the intersection with the Manson family. It's fascinating. Yeah.
Yikes.
Yep.
Well, yeah, MKX, I've just loaded their website. We'll link all these brands. They've got a lot of different products and a lot of vapes, including all-in-one, and some pretty fun strains on here. So anyways, check out these brands. This is the top 3 in the top 3. Thought it's kind of fun to see. And there's so much nuance to these brands and the things they do. And there's so many ways to slice the data. I wish we could just do this all day and just talk about it. But yeah, for sure. Check out their websites. Check out what makes them tick, because they're having a lot of success in vape.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's kind of it for vape. I'm trying to see if my notes here, if I have anything else that I didn't call out.
I think we did it.
Yeah, I think we did it.
It's going to be interesting to see how this continues to unroll, but
yeah,
these categories are growing.
Yeah, growing and changing. Emerging brands and all that. So it might be fun to do some brand deep dives from time to time as well. So anyways, so I think that's it for the high rise this week. I don't know. This is always a good time. We should definitely do it again.
We're going to do it again in 2 weeks.
Do it again in 2 weeks. I love it. I love it. Yeah, and we're exploring other ways. We've got, I don't know, there's so much more that we're not talking about, that we have data on or we have headlines on. So we're trying to figure out ways to make that more accessible, find new ways to share this. We're doing obviously the audio version. We're publishing this to YouTube now, so you can see us chatting about these things. So expect to see even more high rise in different places. I don't know. It's great for us to be able to do this. It's a lot of fun, and hopefully the audience out there enjoys this stuff. It's great for me to get these roundups and kind of a nice way to package what happened over the last couple of weeks. And this is just, I don't know, the tip of the iceberg. I feel like there's just so much more, but some pretty big stories coming out between, what's going on in these markets, what's going on in vape, and then really the big changes ahead for Texas. So I'm sure we'll have a lot more of those throughout the year to come.
Thanks for listening to the High Rise Podcast, presented by Headset. For more information on Headset, visit headset.io.